This is the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson. I'm totally against anything that is not fully implemented and not fully vetted as it pertains to international law. I really don't understand why you would get involved in something or a particular issue and then not actually do what you had promised and perform in a manner that actually makes the law or rule in question worthwhile having on the books. And of course, there needs to be flexibility in certain things we do. However, some things don't make any sense. One of these things, in my opinion, that does not make any sense is the fact that the United States has the ability to grant waivers for countries that deal with Iran. And these waivers essentially are reviewed every 6 months and then they're usually given out again. And the issue is Iran's potential nuclear program, whether or not this thing is going to be used for peaceful purposes or military purposes. And the United States in 2011 put together a law that requires a review every 6 months of waivers, which are given to all of Iran's major buyers. And one of the major buyers just happens to be one of our major trading partners, which is Japan. And recently, the United States renewed the waiver on sanctions for Japan. Now, what would happen if the waiver was not granted is that Japan would have been cut off from all of the U.S. financial markets. And the purpose of doing this is to use a carrot and stick approach with countries to get them to essentially choke Iran's financial markets by not dealing with them. However, there's this waiver. My question is this: if you really believe that the Iranians have nuclear weapons or are about to have nuclear weapons, then why would you even grant a waiver? If this is a threat to the degree that we are understanding it to be or hearing that it is, then you need to stand firm, and there should not have been waivers granted to even our best friends. Because if you believe that the sanctions overall will cripple the Iranians and force them to stop such a program, then you should stand firm. Waivers weaken the overall impact. I don't believe this is a good idea. I honestly don't think it's a good idea at all, because what's going to happen is the waivers are going to continue to be granted. People know they're going to be granted, and the Iranians know they're going to be granted to certain countries. So they're going to continue to do business with these countries, and you're never going to have the full impact of them known in Iran. And the Iranian nuclear program is already having a destabilizing effect in the region. It is a huge political risk because we don't know what kind of conflict is going to grow out of this. Are the Israelis actually going to attack the Iranians? Are the Israelis getting sick and tired of things the Americans are doing, such as granting these waivers, which will essentially make them feel that they have to act if they feel threatened? A war between Iran and any Western country, including attacks by Israel, are going to destabilize the region even short term. You're going to have huge spikes in oil prices. The Strait of Hormuz is no doubt going to be closed for a short period of time, which is going to necessitate United States military action. And then you're implementing all the other regional countries in something if the Iranians decide that it might be a good idea to attack an ally of the United States in order to try to prevent further attacks from either the Americans or the Israelis. This overall political risk is going to have a substantial impact on financial markets, particularly commodities. And it's tied, in my opinion, directly to the fact that these waivers are being granted to very, very rich countries that deal with the Iranians. If, in fact, there really is a program that can create a nuclear weapon in Iran. And I actually believe that they are trying to create a nuclear weapon. And I do believe that the sanctions are necessary, and I do believe that they should be stopped somehow. The Iranians should be stopped from getting a nuclear weapon. But I also believe if you're going to do this, you do it and you don't make changes. And the very idea that Japan would be cut off from U.S. financial markets is so incredibly unpalatable to them. There's no way in the world that they would risk it. And we know they would never risk it. This is politics, as usual, where people have make cut deals. Because we know they would never risk it. They would never do it. Why in the world would you grant the waiver? Japan, dealing with the Iranians, is basically giving the Iranians a green light to continue in a program. And this is not just Japan I'm singling out. I'm not trying to do that. Japan just happens to be one of the major players that got the waiver granted. But they're also one of the richest countries that the Iranians need. And without them, things are going to get a lot tougher in Iran. So my point is, the overall political risk of conflict in the Middle East is going up gradually as Israel gets more and more impatient with the Iranian nuclear program, and the uncertainty of the calm before the storm, if you will. And the uncertainty is being fed by the fuel of these waivers, because these waivers, if they did not exist, may have been able to strangle the Iranian nuclear program a long time ago, about a year ago, and we wouldn't be in this spot right now where there's incredible uncertainty in the markets, because no one knows if there's going to be military action or when there's going to be military action, and in which countries are going to be implemented and to what extent. And this is the overall political risk that's being created, in my opinion, by the fact that these waivers exist as part of this particular law. I don't think the waivers were a good idea. This has been the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson.